Good morning, everyone. Dan Bates, President and CEO, Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce. We are so thrilled you could join us today. We have a really interesting conversation today. I'm sure you're all going to be glued to your computer screens during this coffee and conversation. So just a little bit of protocol. We are on Facebook Live. So if you are on Zoom with us, you can ask questions of the speakers. If you're on Facebook Live, you type them in and Tiffany will repeat them to the speakers so they can answer your questions. So once again, we thank you all for joining us today. Our speakers today are representing H.A.H.A. And we'll just let you wonder what that is for right now, what that acronym. We'll tell you in a little while. But it's a great group that is really moving businesses forward in downtown Hamilton. So that being said, you know who I am, you know who our speakers are going to be. We're going to have Anne-Marie from Casual Pint. We're going to have Jim from Municipal and Tyler from Tano's Bistro. So now we're going to find out who all of you are. So I'm turning it over to Laura.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Glad you could be with us today. I'm Laura Merrill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber. We will just go around, let me know your name and what company you're with. Nancy, we will start with you.
Nancy O'Neill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
Shauna.
I'm Shauna Kepfer with Spectrum Business.
Glad to have you with us today. Jill.
I'm Jill Cates with Career Connections, serving Butler and Warren counties.
Awesome. Steve.
Hello, everyone. Steve Wayne from Miami University Regionals.
And we have Jeff with us today. Welcome. You're still muted. Still muted. Jeff, are you with Parkside? Is that correct? All right, we're glad to have you with us today. And then Christopher, would you like to introduce yourself? I know this is a little short notice for you probably.
My name is Christopher Boyd. I'm an intern here with the Hamilton Chambers of Commerce.
This is his first 6 minutes of work. So super excited to have him with us today. So, oh, and Tiffany.
I'm Tiffany Grubb with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
All right, we're glad to have everybody with us today. Tyler, Anne-Marie, and Jim, we will let you take it away.
Tyler, do you want to kick it off real quick while I pull up the screen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Tyler McCleary. I'm the Director of Operations for Tano Bistro. And Dan mentioned H.A.H.A. And what that is the Hamilton Amusement and Hospitality Association. So myself, Jim, and Anne-Marie, we're going to kind of explain what that is, how it got started, and kind of what we're trying to do here in Hamilton. But essentially, in the broad spectrum of things, it's really trying to get the hospitality industry together here in Hamilton to pull our forces together and see what kind of impact we can make in the community. So Anne-Marie has a presentation here she put together, and she's going to kind of explain how we got started, what we're trying to do, and where we're trying to go from here.
All right. So yeah, a couple of folks thought it would be interesting, since we're a couple of months into this effort, to share with the broader Hamilton business community, kind of share a little bit of how we got started and the vision. I really have to give credit where credit's due, because Jim Goodman and Tyler really are the folks who put the effort into making this a more formal group of people. There was a few of us, I think, that sort of the connections and the collaborations were happening, whether it be because of proximity or business type or whatever it was. But this idea to bring everybody together and make things a little bit more formal and a little bit more organized, I really credit these two guys with taking that time and energy. And I'm going to ask both you guys, if you wouldn't mind, just jump in. I'm a little bit of a trumpet for this thing, but it doesn't. I really would love for everybody to hear everybody's voice behind this, if that's okay with you guys. So what I'm going to run through today is, what is H.A.H.A? How did we get our start? What were we experiencing, and what was the genesis of the organization, and where are we today? How we built around what businesses said they needed and wanted, both at the time that we kicked this off, as well as how we are evolving things going forward, who we are targeting, what the businesses are that we're targeting, and what a little bit of the glide path looks like to bring people in and get the engagement that we really think will drive the success of this organization, and what makes us special. And we really didn't, I don't know if we necessarily thought of this as a special effort when it started out, but we're getting some feedback that this is a little bit unique and a little bit special from a business organization standpoint. And I think there's some principles in there that we want to make sure that we hang on to, and we keep we drive those forward, because that's what's going to drive the impact of the group. And we'll share a couple of the early wins that we're seeing and what we anticipate seeing over the next couple of months, and what the future holds for us. Not going to go into a ton of the details of the branding work, et cetera, that we want to do internally, but just to give a little bit of a lens into how we're really trying to formalize this, but still keep it something that serves the bar and restaurant industry in particular in Hamilton as best as possible. I'll throw it out there for questions at the end, questions, suggestions, you name it. Let me check real quick with Laura and Tiffany. How much time are you guys okay talking about this? So I know not to ramble.
You're good with about 30-40 minutes easily.
Okay. I don't.
We can do questions during, and we could do questions at the end.
All right, perfect. I don't think I'll take up that much time. But yeah, folks jump in. Jim and Tyler, please jump in. But just to kind of take you back to where we were at the beginning of this year, when the discussions about something like a H.A.H.A. group started. The bar and restaurant establishments, we felt like we were transitioning from this, what I call the sense of emergency, to a sense of emergence. While the numbers weren't necessarily, the COVID numbers weren't necessarily the greatest at the beginning of the year, and certainly are, we go through what I like to call the cold, dark winter each season. But with the vaccine on the horizon, and businesses opening up and restrictions loosening, we did feel like we had this somewhat sense of emergence and an opportunity to think again about growth of the business, not just survival, but how do we get back to doing what we love, serving the community, being the catalyst to bring people to downtown Hamilton and start to think about growing again. So there were some discussions, just amongst small business groups about how do we connect, how do we collaborate a little bit better, how do we make sure we have, we're doing things consistently, whether it be the COVID guidelines or service messages, you name it, so that, wanting access to consistent information. But the age-old struggle, especially with bars and restaurants, because our hours are so unique, is time. And of course, we were facing some staffing challenges brought on by unemployment and various other phenomena. And how do we do it? We tend to be stuck behind bars and in kitchens, or we're brewing beer, or we're doing something that doesn't necessarily lend itself great to conference calls and Zoom meetings, et cetera. So really struggling with time and how, and but the good thing was these conversations were happening. And the other thing that we were seeing is the business collaborations had already proved successful. Customers were consistently coming out, even during COVID, to whether it was things that we were organizing ourselves or things that the city and chamber were enabling for us. We were able to continue to bring people together, do it safely, do it smartly. But especially the things that felt like they were one-offs, that were business-led, they were a lot of work. They required a lot of legwork. And again, everybody's trying to run a business. I'm sure everybody on this call can relate to that. So there was a lot of questions and a lot of desire for scale. How do we broaden this to bring other businesses in, but do it in a way where there's a sense of organization, a sense of efficiency, a sense of there's value in doing this, and a vision down the road. So that was sort of the seed for H.A.H.A. And I'm going to quote, this is Jim, this is one of the very first things you said to me when I opened the business, and I was about to open Casual Pint in Hamilton 2 years ago: "A rising tide lifts all ships." That phrase has stuck with me, and I've heard many, many people use this phrase, through, throughout my 2 years as a business owner. There really was a sense that we wanted to capitalize of, we're all in this together. But a significant recognition that not everyone was necessarily in the same place, whether it was the same place from a business status standpoint, a same place mentally, et cetera. But this idea that, from an industry standpoint, as hard as we were hit, and as challenging as COVID was, it really brought us together and reminded us that we're in this together and we're going to get out of it together. We had a tremendous amount of support from the city and the chamber, but we knew that really longer term, it was on us to make sure that we continue that momentum. There really is a genuine sense of wanting everyone to succeed in Hamilton. And it's an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. And really at the beginning of the year, where we were kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, that really felt like a great time to capitalize on that abundance mindset, and looking at it as an opportunity to unify, because we know when we have fun, when the bars and restaurants have fun, everyone has fun. We bring people, we drive a lot of foot traffic, we bring people downtown. We help recommend the other businesses, the retails, the salons, the consultants, you name it. So we're driving conversations and really, again, trying to really be that tide, that not just for the bar and restaurant group, but for everybody in Hamilton. So H.A.H.A kicked off, and H.A.H.A stands for the Hamilton Amusement and Hospitality Association, kicked it off in April. And I think, again, I'll talk a little bit about what makes it special, but one of the things that's truly unique is that it's business led. So Jim and Tyler really were the masterminds behind, how do we bring everybody together in a more organized fashion, really spearheaded putting together the first couple of agendas in the first months, and driving the starts of the conversations, but encouraging the member businesses to bring questions, concerns, ideas, you name it, for discussion, and really make it something that's very engaging and open. And then with the help of our chamber leadership, organizing the meeting, sharing the information, bringing in as broad a group as possible, disseminating the outcomes of the meetings, et cetera. We really feel like that, this is the flow that is working, and that is going to continue to be a large part of the success of H.A.H.A. So hopefully that takes the mystery out of what does H.A.H.A stand for. The foundation for H.A.H.A is built on 3 key desires that we heard in the first discussion with the businesses that joined. And we've sort of summarized it and made it a little pithy. Since then it wasn't, but really these were the 3 key themes that we heard when folks were asked, what do they want to get from this? What is the value that an organization or a connection like H.A.H.A can bring? First one is curation. So again, we are still living in a unique world with pandemic type restrictions, with reopening, with it really is a new world with people wanting to shop differently, eat differently, et cetera. So this first idea of curation of access, consistent access to, or the ability to create new information, new protocols, new CBAs, you name it. But the idea that there's a little bit more of a one-stop shop and an ability to discuss the ever-changing stuff that was being chucked out there. The ability to connect, whether it was to ourselves as business owners, to industry resources. Like there's a whole lot of, hey, do you got a guy? Do you got a girl who can do XYZ, who knows XYZ? Solutions to problems. I think all of us are sort of big believers in most of what we face. Somebody has probably already solved this problem before. So what have other folks done? What are they doing today? And when there's urgency behind it for certain businesses, this is a great venue, a great group of people to be able to call on. And then collaboration, really wanting to understand what are other businesses doing? How do we jump in on some of that? Or here's some ideas. I think the group that I've come to be known in the group as sort of the person who who sort of throws the pieces of spaghetti out there and to see what sticks. And but whether it's the city events, the chamber events, something like Hamilpalooza last year, I think is a great example of where a few of us kind of came together and said, how do we make the most out of this for ourselves and for each other, and how do we drive it to be something that's really a fun and exciting experience for those that attend, and and really keep that energy and momentum and pushed into other businesses. So sort of that rising tide piece. How do we make that a little bit more top of mind for folks? So when we started the effort, there really was this center circle that we were trying to pull in. So all Hamilton bars and restaurants, that really is the core target that we were trying to get as involved and as engaged and participatory from a H.A.H.A standpoint. And we quickly learned that there's really these two other pieces that we want to make sure that we build into our vision. The first one is the centerpiece, which is we've got a whole lot of new Hamilton businesses, bars and restaurants that are coming in the next year or so. And how do we become an engine to welcome and integrate new businesses? And as I mentioned, not everybody was coming in with from the same. We're all in this together, but we're not necessarily all in the exact same place. So businesses that were struggling, businesses that had questions, still maybe facing that sense of emergency a little bit. How do we become a resource? How do we help ourselves and help them laser focus to address issues quickly? So that's sort of we can throw a small group of people at specific problems fairly quickly. And then I think this discussion today is a great example. How do we also either encourage other Hamilton businesses, the broader business community, to look at something similar for themselves, or include other businesses in the efforts that we're doing? And I think Hamilpalooza coming up, Hamilpalooza 2020, is a great example where we'll be asking for participation from all businesses post Hamilpalooza for something that will kind of kick off during that event. So these three circles really represent how we're thinking about the mission and vision for the organization today and going forward.
I also want to talk about, so that inner circle at the very middle part also, we talked about this yesterday, Anne-Marie. What this has allowed is for some business to feel kind of vulnerable, right? So running any business can feel like you're on an island sometimes, but one of the biggest, uses of H.A.H.A has almost been a support group sometimes. So there's some restaurants that were just really, really struggling. And that's kind of in the early days of how this became a thing, was we all got together through the chamber, and it was obvious that there were some really big issues out there. And some of us were, hit even more, hit harder than others, and creating a platform for some businesses to be open and honest is one of the biggest reasons H.A.H.A was created, because, they came there and just kind of aired their what they're terrified of, essentially. And we were able to find some solutions for that pretty early on. Just think of Amy from Hides, and she was, hit hard by the staffing crisis, and we were able to find a pretty good solution for that pretty quickly.
And these things are evolving. Who really needs the most help? What are the problems? What are the challenges that we're facing, that the businesses are facing? So much of this is evolving because that's what's happening in the world today. So again, having this group that comes together with frequency is really helpful to keep our fingers on the pulse and to keep those conversations going as much as possible. So I mentioned we felt like, this is just sort of what we do and how we operate and what Hamilton is all about. But as we stepped back and said, and got feedback that, this is actually kind of unique to have, especially the bar and restaurant industry, come together and collaborate and try to grow one another. Tyler and I kind of stepped back and said, well, what do we really think is special and different about this? And we landed on three things. First and foremost, it's led by us. So Tiffany and Dan and Nancy, while you guys are there and you're helping us, and you really were the catalyst to keep us open and keep us rolling. we know we have the responsibility to ourselves and to each other to keep successes happening and to keep those doors open. And we really have seen that a lot of magic can happen when a lot of businesses from one industry come together. There's a lot of shared expertise. There's a lot of shared experience, and just the fact that we really are owning this thing and taking the responsibility, not just to help our businesses grow, but to help it grow, has been pretty eye-opening, I think, over the last couple of months. Again, bars and restaurants were not an industry really known for organization and structure when it comes to bringing a lot of us together. But again, there's a lot of us that appreciate those characteristics and appreciate what happens when we do come together. So, you know, being true to silly things like getting together at least once a month, creating a vision, and that's, you know, kind of where we are now, but creating a vision of where we want to go and who we want to serve and what the collective experience, we believe the collective experience can look like, making those things tangible, so that we can discuss them with groups like this, or bringing in new businesses into the organization is really important. And then the last one is just the conversations, the gatherings, the interactions within this group are very open and honest. It's a very fun and safe environment where people can be vulnerable, right? We all lived COVID. I feel like that broke down a lot of barriers for us to say, we need help, or we've learned a lot. Let's, you know, get some of this stuff written down. Let's make sure we share. Let's make sure we're keeping our fingers on the pulse of a lot of business owners. But it really is a great environment where we can all share, learn, ask questions, feel a little stupid at times if we need to, because we know not one person knows all the answers. So, and we feel like if we stick with these three principles going forward, we will bring a lot of value to the businesses of Hamilton in a way that that they've really been asking for, and has been hard to serve up until this point. So this is where I'm going to ask Jim and Tyler to really jump in, because I feel like we really can list a few big wins already that this organization has helped to catalyze. The staffing portal. So Tyler, if you want to talk a little bit more about, you know, the question and the challenge that was raised early.
Yeah, well, I mean, staffing, we realized early on was, an issue here in Hamilton, but across the country, right? And so with us being organized and having the chamber as a great resource, we all kind of got to put our heads together, and what they created was a staffing portal. So it's kind of, I've never seen anything else like this, but we put together a commercial that featured not just the owners, but like actual workers in the restaurants across the city. They, you know, air that out through social media, and they created this whole portal where you can go online, and essentially it had listings for everybody who needed workers to the hospitality industry. They can kind of select what they were looking for, and any person who was interested go and click what place they wanted, what what job they're looking for, and it worked out pretty well. I can tell you personally, we got 2 staff members from this ourselves. Like, one was hired directly from the portal, and then one of their friends came on board. But it happened really quickly. Like, we had a H.A.H.A call, and everybody said, hey, we need, for the most part, everybody said, hey, we need staff. This is a big issue. And pretty quickly put together a solution, and it was out there. It was very unique, and got a lot of good media coverage too. I think we were on at least 2 different news networks for that. And yeah, it was pretty cool. And also got staff involved, which I know people would, appreciate that too. It was something different. We got a bunch of people who typically probably wouldn't be in the spotlight, were out there and just saying how much fun it was to work here in the hospitality industry in Hamilton. And it was great, honestly.
That page is actually, sorry, Jim, that page is actually still up if anyone's interested to look at it. It's hamilton-ohio.com/HA.H.A. The application's on there, what you need to do to fill that out, for anyone listening on Facebook Live or the recording, and you're looking for a new job.
And it was, not only was it helpful, I just think it's so cool that it was so innovative, so different, right? I've never seen anybody else do that before. And it was done by just some, conversations during a H.A.H.A call. And it was amazing. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jim Goodman, one of the owners and co-founders of Municipal Brew Works in Hamilton. And I'm the lucky one because I get to ride the coattails of Tyler and Anne Marie. Tyler came to me and actually said, hey, what do you think about a group, of just bars and restaurants? Because our challenges are unique compared to a lot of the other industries as all of these COVID mandates and suggestions and restrictions started to come down. And I said, that's a great idea. And as soon as I told Anne Marie, she's a ball of energy. So she just took it and ran with it. And her and Tyler have done so much with this. So I've been lucky enough to kind of ride the coattails of this and watch it develop and just kind of put something in whenever I can. But so they've done a lot with this. And I think part of the issues that we were seeing was, especially with COVID and the mandates and the state guidelines and the governor saying this and all of us having customer service based industries where we've got people coming to us and we want to make sure that we are we're adhering to those guidelines, trying to find different ways and new ideas to still maintain those guidelines, but yet provide better customer service. And I think a lot of that came out, and this whole group came out of that necessity really to start. And then what we found was that these challenges that are unique to this industry, we have a lot of the same challenges. And we can discuss them and we can try and drive business through collaborative efforts. We want to make sure that if someone's throwing an event that we're not stepping on the toes of that event, but we want to enhance and cross promote that event, or let's have an event together where we can all come together and bring something for people, to bring people out. We had some really good events during February, which, it's cold. Nobody goes out on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday or February, but we partnered with other service establishments, bars and restaurants, things like that, and started to see good things happen and people coming out because there was a reason to come out. I know that, if Anne Marie at Casual Pint or Tyler at Tano, if they're going to have an event, I don't need to have an event. I'm going to help cross promote that event because there's a doggone good chance that folks are going to come into our brewery and they're going to have a beer or before or after that event when they go over there. So, that rising tide lifts all ships. I've had it said to me so many times, and we've certainly seen it as an example in downtown Hamilton, because I think Hamilton has become a destination and nobody wants to see that go away. And in fact, we're looking at how do we make it better? How do we get more businesses under our tent and help survive and help thrive? And I was on vacation last week and I went sailing, so I'm going to give another boat metaphor here. But it was, we're not all on the same boat, but we're all weathering the same storm. And that, I think, is a great analogy of what we're dealing with. We're all dealing with very similar problems. Now, we may all be in unique situations given our specific business, but the problems in general have a tendency to be very all-encompassing for us. So coming together and kind of peeling that onion and taking it piece by piece and discussing it and talking about it and figuring out ways around it and through it really helps. The other thing, like I said, consistent practices. There were consistent practices not only dealing with COVID, because a lot of times, there were some questions as to, well, what does this mean or what does that mean, and am I within the letter of the law of doing this or that, and even with DORA, and DORA in Hamilton is for the designated outdoor refreshment area, so we're open container, and all three of our businesses are in that DORA district. So we want to make sure that there's consistency within those businesses on how we handle that. We want to make sure that we're within the letter of the law, but we're also handling it, and that our staff knows that these are the ways to handle this. And so there's definitely a consistency. And what it does is it creates a stronger program overall for all the businesses that are involved in DORA. There's a much stronger program because there's a better understanding. There's no questions of, well, how do you do it when this happens? We already know because we've all discussed it. And we all have our own kind of standards and methods and practices in dealing with that. We recently had House Bill 674 just recently passed in the Ohio State Legislature, which really changed the landscape of liquor laws. And I've been on the phone with our attorney, dealing with, well, what can we do and what can't we do? Well, I'm going to pass that information on, so that other folks don't have to go and pay their attorneys, however many $100 an hour in order to deal with that. But so there's definitely some benefits in bringing everyone together, because like I said, I think a lot of the challenges that we see are very similar.
Agreed. And I think that we all have a responsibility to our own businesses to create a great experience, but it's really become that whole Hamilton as a whole customer experience. People come through and no matter where they're going, they get, it's not like Anne Marie said, it's not just one place. They kind of, what the flavor of the day is. What do you want to do? You can bounce around, get a little bit of everything in Hamilton, and wherever you go, it's that same welcoming feeling. So it's not just one business, but the city as a whole has this entire customer experience every time you come up here, and that gets more people coming back because, we just pull everybody together. And I think it's somebody said that during COVID, which was one of the craziest times, of ever, we had one business in the entire city closed down. And that's insane to me. Like that we're really, really fortunate. I think part of it is because we were able to pull everybody together and have communications and make sure everything was all good.
So one thing I'd like to mention from a collaboration standpoint, and it's a little bit of an experiment, but with Hamilpalooza coming up, we are going to do the beer sign, the passport adventure with the beer sign at the end of the adventure for everybody who visits the businesses on the passport. But the thinking is that mug then becomes a passport in and of itself to specials, sales, giveaways, you name it, within the broad Hamilton community during the Oktoberfest season. So Tiffany's going to be sending out a survey asking if people who wants to participate and what you'd like to offer. If people come in with that special mug. So we'd like to expand the reach of what the H.A.H.A. Community is able to accomplish from a collaboration standpoint to include all of Hamilton during the events, during the seasons where it really makes sense to push foot traffic to retail, to salons, spas, you name it. This is I think a great opportunity and will be a great example of how, just again, this little bit of effort can pay huge dividends. So we've only existed for a couple of months, and we have a lot of work to do to continue to grow, to drive impact. This is a business facing organization. So while our goal is to help all Hamilton businesses provide a great customer experience and to keep people coming downtown, et cetera. This is something that, we'll keep it as an organization that really is really meant to serve the businesses and continue to communicate the customer facing tools, et cetera. But this is an organization that's really about creating tools, creating resources for the businesses themselves. And with that, we're looking at how do we brand this? How do we really think about how H.A.H.A. As an organization, as an entity, shows up, who we serve, what we're about, how we do it, and we're using some fun brand archetyping to help define that and bring that persona to life. And with that, also, what are the key goals? What businesses in particular need to have specific needs, have specific issues that need to be addressed quickly, but also, what are the bigger, broader Hamilton goals that we want to be a part of and that we want to continue to serve. And then, of course, I think, every bar and restaurant will tell you, we hear it at least 10 times a day, what are you going to do when Spooky Nook opens? Really being an organization that's going to help connect the Hamilton businesses with Spooky Nook leadership, with the visitors, serve the Spooky Nook customers while continuing to serve and provide great experience for Hamiltonians. And that's something that's very important to us. is to make sure that we always delight our base as well, and and the group of people that really are responsible for us continuing to be here. So there's some power in all of us coming together and thinking about how do we best partner with Spooky Nook. So that's kind of what I pulled together, and I appreciate Tyler and Jim jumping in, and so you don't have to hear just my voice, but I'll throw it out there for questions, for suggestions, etc., from the folks on the call.
Okay, I'm going to say something. Nobody's talking. So I think this is a great thing that you guys are doing. One thing that the collaboration part that comes to mind, what I did when in March, when there was like nobody around, when my husband, it was his birthday, we went to each bar. And I had like 15 people with me. Now I live in Kettering, but I belong to the chamber in Hamilton. So I thought that was important, to be able to support everybody and, keep you open. And so I think that that's a great thing to do.
We appreciate that more than you'll ever know.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point, because I think, at least my standpoint is that during COVID, we got, as far as the industry, got so much support from the city, from everybody in the community as a whole. Because of that, I feel like it's almost our duty to support back, right? So we were lucky, extremely fortunate to have all this, this great support. So now I think it's really, now we've weathered the storm, if you will. We want to give that support back and help anybody coming to Hamilton the same kind of, grace, to make sure they're fine, and anybody who's struggling, we want to, uplift them too. I think we've been very fortunate to hear that phrase over and over again, that a rising tide lifts all ships. So I think it's just with all the growth, all the new stuff coming to Hamilton, it's really on us to pass that message along so we else can be successful. We see this great momentum coming, we want to keep it going.
Right.
How are you?
I think one of the other things that I've noticed is since this, what you see is this same type of mentality starting from the top and going all the way to the line workers, the folks that are actually talking to the customers, the people that are actually serving the customers. Our employees, and what I've seen, when I go and visit Tunnel, or I visit Casual Pine, or I visit any other place in Hamilton, and maybe they don't know who I am, they'll suggest other places to me to try and visit and to try and support, and say, oh, you know what, if you like this, you got to go over there and try that. And it's that type of mentality, I think, because everyone has bought in and has embraced this really from the top and from the management perspective, that it has filtered down to the employees. And now the employees are all about the entire Hamilton experience and spreading the love really to all the other local businesses to make sure that people are aware of what's out there. I think a lot of that, like I said, it comes from here. It comes from these types of calls where the folks that are the decision makers in the business have bought in, and because of that, they have then kind of presented that to their managers, and the managers to the servers and the line workers and things of that nature. So I think without a complete buy-in at the top, I don't think this works. But because we've had this buy-in, I think this is why it's really, we're kind of on this upward momentum swing, and constantly looking for new ways and different things to do in order to advance this. What else can we do? What other challenges are out there? What other collaborative efforts can we do? What other clarifications do we need to make sure that we're consistent with whatever it is that we're trying to tackle? So I think that I have to tip my hat to the folks that participate in those calls, because it's now become this thing where new businesses that are coming in are getting on the call, and they're taking on this whole mentality as well. We've got Billy Yanks opening, we've got the Hamilton Urban Backyard opening, and those folks have participated in this, and now they're telling their folks, that these new hires, that now it's become a way to do business in this city. These businesses that are starting, and they're putting their they're kind of their mantras in concrete of what they're about, and this is becoming part of it. The total promotion of everything that's going on around, and I think that's a beautiful thing to see in terms of the ripple effect of where we started and how this is progressing on.
I completely agree, and we talked about this a lot during the staffing deal, because a lot of us are small business, right? So we don't have the pool of the resources to do maybe giant benefit packages or things like that. But what we do have is, if you come to work in Hamilton in this industry, you're not just getting a job, you're joining part of a movement, right? There's some crazy cool things going on here. And not only are you going to make some money by doing so, but you get to be part of a very unique situation that can impact a lot of people in a very different way. And I think because of that, we're pulling, for the first time just recently, we're pulling people from OTR, right? The Cincinnati cool hotspot. Those kind of people that worked on there for a while are now starting to look towards Hamilton, saying, oh, wow, I see this, I see the potential, let's go there and join it. So it's just going to get bigger and bigger and better as time goes on, as we keep on, talking about what we're trying to accomplish here.
Sorry, I had myself muted. I think one of the biggest things from my standpoint, COVID kicked our butt. COVID kicked everybody's butt, right? And the bar and restaurant industry is rolling to begin with, and we were tired, we were worn out, we were confused, we were scared, we were all of these things, and energy levels and optimism sort of ebbed and flowed. And one of the things that I know I experience when this group comes together is, even if I'm below line from an energy standpoint, there's always going to be a group of people that's above line, and that either I can rely on, or they're going to help lift me up, and that's really important from a staff standpoint too, because as the business leaders, you want the staff to see positivity and energy, et cetera, but the bucket isn't always full on any given day. So I think that's sort of one of those huge implicit benefits of when leaders of an industry come together like this, and it's not just about growing the business. Some days it's just about surviving. Some days it's just about having a group of people that you can tap into when you just don't have it yourself to give. None of us like to admit when we've hit that wall, but we all do. And it's really refreshing that we can admit it to each other, that it's such a great group of people that nobody's going to judge. But then people are, okay, what can we do? How do we bounce back? So I encourage anybody who's either in a similar situation, or if you've got a group of people in similar businesses, et cetera, to think about how do you formalize at least getting together, at least talking, discussing, doing the how might we's. It's my favorite question of all time, coming from an innovation background. So, just having a forum where you could do how might we do, think, be, et cetera, XYZ in any given moment. So that's what we had. That's what I had, unless Jim and Tyler want to close it out with anything additional. But we hope that there's some nuggets in here that perhaps inspire, create, drive the 3 C's with us would be great. So.
I mean, the only thing I'd add there is that, I think early on we realized that we're a community within a community. So, and Hamilton and the hospitality industry as a whole is resilient as can be. Like you said, I mean, we don't really give up, and like the how might we into that, we find a way. And I was talking to Ian from Fin Center months ago, and there's like this golden bubble around Hamilton that I think that somehow we just all band together always. And I think that with the hospitality industry, we just, we have fun jobs. This is cool. Like we are the fun center. And like you said early on, it's like, if we're having fun, everybody's having fun. So that's our duty, right? We just want to make sure that we can provide a fun and exciting environment to everybody, and also in a safe environment during the COVID times. Like this group has found a way to do that efficiently, right? So essentially, we're finding ways to produce laughs and happy the city in an efficient way. That's kind of what H.A.H.A is all about.
Well, we are so excited to have had three of you with us today. Thank you so much for taking a little time. So we've got Anne Marie with the Casual Pint, and Jim Goodman with Municipal Brew Works, and Tyler McCleary with Tano Bistro. Some of our local business leaders, we are so proud of you guys for everything you've done. We're glad to be able to be here to support you and continue for many, many years to come. We will be back here in 2 weeks. That is August 24th for Coffee and Conversation. We will be hearing from Spooky Nook Sports about the new sports complex, their hotel and conference center that will attract visitors into our region and provide opportunities for our local residents and businesses. So everyone is super excited to hear about Spooky Nook and everything that they're going to be bringing to the community, which will impact you and H.A.H.A quite a bit, I am for sure. So thank you all for being on, and we will see you all in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.